Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Mile High Game Guys board gaming podcast. I'm your host, Adrian.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff.
This week, we are going to be doing a discussion episode instead of a review episode. And we are going to do our discussion kind of focused around player interaction, specifically player interaction in competitive games. We thought about including cooperative a little bit because there is player interaction still in cooperative games in some ways.
But I feel like that you can tie that more into like alpha gaming and stuff like that. And I feel
also
like
we don't want to be here for 4 hours talking about every aspect of player interaction.
Also yes.
True.
Because we totally could if we threw that cooperative in there.
This is going to be kind of probably rambly because that's our style. We just sit down and talk about shit and see what comes out.
We really shouldn't call these discussions anymore. Just ramblings.
Yes.
Ramblings.
Mile High Game Guys ramblings. Player interaction.
It's a new episode title.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Series.
We keep changing the titles anyway.
We'll go back and retroactively.
Nope. We'll just always have 100 different ways that we say things.
It's endearing.
Keep people guessing.
Mm-hmm.
Hell with consistency.
Yeah.
So let's find somewhere to start with this, because part of the reason we wanted to have this discussion is in the worker placement episode a little while back, there came a point where Zach was talking about liking what was the phrasing on it, Zach?
It was about like if you had a card, like basically you had two choices. You had a card that either everybody else lost a point, or you had a card where you just gained a point, and that was it.
Yeah.
And it was like the choice between those two of you gaining something versus taking away something from somebody else.
Yeah. You know, and at the time, like, and this is one of the fundamental differences, Zach would rather have the card, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Zach, you'd rather have the card where everybody else loses a point.
Yes.
So you are still, from a net point perspective, it's going to be the same. You're going to be, the same amount of points ahead or behind everybody else at the end of these cards. I prefer the I get a point and everybody else just kind of stays where they are kind of philosophy.
You gain versus they lose.
Yes. Yeah, I want to feel like I'm accomplishing something rather than I'm just punching people in the face.
That's an accomplishment.
So that was kind of what that was one of the things that spurred it on. And then, I know I always get a little salty sometimes when some of my favorite games are described as multiplayer solitaire, when I'm like, no, like the other players are integral to what's going on in the game. There are some games that truly are multiplayer solitaire where you really cannot interact in any way.
Well, I think part of that is just that some people think of interaction as like one type of way of direct interaction. And so indirect player interaction, they go, well, you're not actually, I can't directly influence what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so then I'm just basically just doing my own thing.
Right. Which I think there's, because sometimes people describe worker placement Euros as multiplayer solitaire, but there's really, I would still classify it as indirect player interaction, but there's the blocking is much a stronger interaction versus, other games where the indirect player, like say Race for the Galaxy, you're not even blocking. You never prevent somebody from doing something. The player interaction there is all about anticipating what actions your opponent is going to do and how to capitalize on that, which is still a type of interaction. Like what they are doing and how you interact with their actions is key to being good at that game.
Yeah.
And then on the side of games that really have basically no player interaction is like, welcome to. You really can't do anything.
No, it's just who does best.
Yeah.
I will say, I tried to Google Webster Dictionary player interaction so we could do that. Webster Dictionary defines player interaction as, but it had player and it had interaction, but not both of them together. So
fair enough.
A failing of the dictionary system, in my words.
Yeah.
Yeah, and BGG doesn't really have anywhere that there's a couple threads that people put up where they try to list what they think the different types of player interaction are, or threads about like what your favorite type of player interaction are, but nothing that really defines player interaction. And then lots of games have, like in their specific threads, like Puerto Rico has a thread that's player interaction. Does it exist?
Yeah.
But, there's not a solid definition that just encompasses all what it is.
Yeah.
So let's start off. So let's kind of define then on our own. So we're all kind of vaguely on the same page. What?
So we can give to Webster Dictionary to put in their dictionary.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I'm sure they'll take it seriously.
Yes.
What what are we considering player interaction? What are we not considering player interactions? Like, I personally wouldn't. So in Welcome to, a game that I think really does fit the definition of multiplayer solitaire. Technically, if I beat you to one of the objectives, I get more points, and then everybody else gets less. So I have interacted with you guys by
taking resources.
Resources a little bit, but that at the same time also seems so mild that I'm not sure I want to count it. But then also when I think about playing it, like I definitely am paying attention to other people's boards. Like, ooh, I need to focus. Like not like over studying them, but it's like, Zach looks like he's kind of going for all of the objective to get all of the forests in a row, all the gardens in a row. Maybe I want to focus towards that to try and get there before him or at the same time. Or maybe I'm like, hey, he's too far along. Fuck that. I'm not going to worry about that because I'm clearly not going to be the first one there. So I'll focus on something else.
Yeah.
Which then you're interacting with me in an indirect manner. But are we going to
That's not, I wouldn't even say, for me, that's not even indirect. That's like a glancing blow of player interaction.
Like, oops.
Yeah. It just happenstance of, oh, you're going for this thing too? Well, I'm going to get it there first, or I won't. But either way, I'll keep doing what I'm doing. And then I feel, for me at least, player interaction has to be some sort of, for me, player interaction is like about denial in some way of it's like either me attacking you, to make you lose things, or like even worker placement and stuff is like, you can't go here anymore. It is fucking hard to actually just sort of get an overarching definition of it.
Yeah.
Well,
then let's try through examples.
Okay.
So let's see can we come up with a game? Do any of you have a game that you can think of that has literally no player interaction? That is the true multiplayer solitaire. None.
Friday.
That's a solitaire game.
2 copies of Friday.
Yeah.
But then you're literally playing 2 games of solitaire.
Exactly.
That is the literal definition of multiplayer
I believe,
solitaire.
isn't that what he asked for?
I mean,
no, I said no player interaction, not the definition of multiplayer solitaire.
So, I mean, I would say Dimension, if you ever played that, it was all about like you're placing little spheres along to try and get points, and then whoever has the most points at the end wins.
Okay.
That's all about you just playing your stuff better than somebody else.
Was that the one where they're in like little test tubes?
No.
Oh, I'm not sure.
That's Eureka.
Yeah, it's Cosmos. It's a Cosmos game. It has like you're building a pyramid of spheres, and with certain restrictions, like black can't touch orange, or you have to have like no blacks on the bottom.
Oh, yes, I have played that. Okay.
Yeah, and all of that is just checking whether or not I did better than you. That's all it is.
I mean, wouldn't you say that that's like kind of the racing?
No, because there is no, oh, because I did this better than you, I'm taking these points. Like, because I don't think that Welcome to has any player interaction. It's just who got there first. I wouldn't say that that's...
See, because I think Welcome to is, although it is on the very low end of player interaction, because I do actually, especially in a smaller game, like if it's a 10-person game, I clearly can't see all 10 boards. So in that regard, in a larger game, it feels more like it is actually multiplayer solitaire. But if I'm playing with like just 2 or 3 people, then I am kind of like looking and, what are you going
that's
for?
Player, I would say that's like player influencing, but not interaction.
Zombie dice.
Yeah, it would be that same thing. Yeah.
So,
but I would say if it's just a race, and it's a race in a line where I'm gonna go as fast as I can, you're gonna go as fast as you can, and whoever gets there first is the winner. You getting there first, like we're both going as fast as we can, and it's just whoever does it better.
Okay.
There's no player interaction there because I can't influence anything that you're doing. It's just whether I'm doing better than you or you're doing better than me.
So interaction. We can't get a definition of player interaction, but we can get a definition of interaction.
Yeah.
Which is mutual or reciprocal action or influence, according to Merriam-Webster.
Yeah.
So I could see by that definition, if you're using that definition of the interaction, and then you player just modifies it, it's that between players. Then I could see Welcome to and you influencing me not meeting that because it's not mutual or reciprocal.
Yeah.
Like if you're not doing the same thing back, then it's not.
Yeah. But if it was there were more tiles out, or there were more cards out, but me choosing one meant that you couldn't have that one.
Yes.
Then that would be me influencing your board because you can't put that on your board.
Like choosing the dice in a 2-player game of Knock 'em All.
Exactly. Yeah.
Paperback?
I could
Yeah, I mean,
trying to remember if paperback has interaction or not really.
I think there's a variant that has some in there, but
Dominion, if you don't use the attack
that's
cards,
come up a lot. Yeah.
because then it's just about really. I feel like there are engine building games that people like to where it's like I'm doing my builder, I'm building my engine, you're building your engine, and then at the end we'll see who had the best engine. I feel like that's what multiplayer solitaire games tend to be.
Yeah.
Or something similar to that.
Okay, so would you consider in Roll to the Top the act of removing or adding a die and choosing which one? Is that enough interaction? My decision of which die specifically to add or remove and how it affects the other players, is that enough to say that game has player interaction, or is that still multiplayer solitaire?
I would say so, because sometimes they
Yeah.
need that D20 and you're like, you're not getting that D20 this round.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or you really want that. You want, like, they keep having a lot of low numbers, so you're taking out that D4 to make sure that they're going to have to increase their numbers and not just keep going low. It's not a lot of player interaction, but it's definitely some amount of it.
Through denial of
Exactly. Yes. Through denial. Yes.
Okay. Well, now that we know kind of where we draw the line with the low end of things, where it does start to fall off, where this is no longer player interaction.
Yeah.
Let's talk about different types of player interaction.
Okay.
Jeff, I know you found a list that had a few different types. I found a list here on BGG that somebody had a few different types. And there's some overlap between the two. And I think that between the two, that'll give us a good realm of things to talk about.
Yes, we researched much smarter people to be able to talk about this in a like it seems like we know what we're talking about.
Right. then what we were just saying must be heavily edited for people to think that we knew what we were talking about.
Well, we're going to see, because we did the research so that we could pretend like it, and then as we talk about it more and more, just destroy that myth.
Yeah.
We're going to give this brief like, oh, we did research, and people are going to be like, oh, here comes interesting discussion, and then it's just going to fall apart as we ramble. As you do.
Yeah.
So, Jeff, yours came from MakeThemPlay.com.
Yes.
Which is a board game kind of design blog, as I understand.
Mm-hmm.
And what were the types that they listed?
So this is from a gentleman, Bastian. He listed specifically attacking, trading, giving, auctioning, taking resources, changing the board / rules, and social deduction.
Okay.
Which we chit-chatted about, and some of which are kind of outside the scope of what we really want to talk about. Like giving is interaction, but co-op, but we're not talking about co-op. And social deduction is more of its own genre than it is...
In a way.
Yeah, it's team-related.
Yeah, and then also just so people know, taking resources is not only taking actual things like wood or clay, but also taking spots. So basically denial / blocking. That's what that means.
You're not negatively influencing a single player, but are instead taking up resources that might have been beneficial for all players.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Sounds like he tried to say, like, if you're taking wood from them, that's the attacking.
Yeah.
You're attacking to take their resources.
Yeah. Taking from a neutral position.
Yeah. Now, that blog didn't really give examples of games that he felt fit into that one. The one I found on BGG does. So the types they list, combat is a player interaction with things like Magic the Gathering, Star Wars Rebellion, King of Tokyo, where you're actually getting in there and scuffling it up. Diplomacy, where a lot of the player interaction is negotiating, things like that. So like Cosmic Encounter, Game of Thrones, Eclipse, TI3. Racing or positioning. And he says specifically he doesn't just mean games that involve a race like Pitch Car, Formula Day.
Yeah.
But like
turn order or stuff like
timing or speed where you're actively vying for position. So again, like Smash Up, Matago, Trilogy, Cyclades, Kemet, Inish, or Game of Thrones. Battle of Wits. So chess, Go, Blockus, Hive. He lists a bunch of
basically like 1v1.
Like
1v1 abstract thing where it's okay.
He does acknowledge that it might be the least active form of player interaction, but it's games where you win by outthinking your opponent. Resource competition, which
I think it's the same sort of thing as taking resources.
Yeah, Scythe, Terraforming Mars, Russian Railroads, Power Grid.
Yeah.
Trading, where you're trading resources, Catan, Monopoly, above and below. Team-driven collaboration, we're going to skip over that because that seems much more in the cooperative, although he does list stuff like Fury of Dracula, Battlestar Galactica, like hidden trader stuff, which I still think is too much on the cooperative, probably for the scope of this discussion.
Yeah.
Take that, where you get to deliberately just wreck shit. So like Machi Koro with Millionaires Row, Dice City, Motainai, Smash Up, Munchkin. And that's kind of the ones he came up with. And I think between those two lists, that kind of gives us a good idea of some different types of take that.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to use either one specifically.
Type of player interaction, yes.
Yeah.
You said take that.
Type. See, I immediately start talking about player interaction. I just think take that. But so let's start with kind of that the combat or the attacking.
The most player interaction, the most direct one.
The top of the tippy tops.
Attacking and take that.
So the top of the tippy top that I think most people started with is probably Munchkin, right?
Yeah, especially for hobby.
For take that,
games take that. You know,
that's what I think of every time I think of this type of player interaction.
Right. Like, oh, you're about to win. Well, take this and that, and here's another fuck you on top. You know,
45 minutes later, the game's over.
Yeah. Which games can do it well. You can do personally take that as one of my least favorite types of player interaction.
Right. So why is that first?
So for me, I think take that often feels very low effort.
Okay.
You know, you've done well, but I happen to have the right card in my hand to cut your legs out from under you at the very end.
Okay.
That you can't necessarily do anything about.
That it's about like pulling down more than elevating yourself.
In some ways, yes, but especially when it's poorly done, like Munchkin, where it often ends up feeling very arbitrary. You know, like Munchkin, a lot of the game is spent with everybody kind of working together until one person gets about to win, and then everybody's been saving up the fuck you cards and just unleashes.
I don't know if I'd say it'd be arbitrary as much as it just happens to, like, there is a finite amount of take that, and your goal in the game is not to be the first person to try and win. It's to be like the third person to try and win because everyone is going to spend the majority of their stuff on the first one and then keep some save for the second one. And then when you come up third,
hopefully everyone else is exhausted. Everything else.
Yeah. And I would say Munchkin's definitely bad on that one, mainly because you can add pretty much an unlimited amount of cards to either side.
Yeah.
So it just becomes this big fucking card fest of just bam, 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 bam. Like you're throwing a whole bunch of stuff down.
It's like Magic the Gathering in here.
Right.
You know, but I think that I'm trying to think of a game that I feel like has done take that well.
I think one that has done it well is Unfair.
Yeah, I would agree with
because me playing a take that, me deliberately attacking you is going to hurt me because it's tied to a card that could also benefit me. So I have to make the choice of, is me attacking you worth more than me gaining whatever it is?
Yeah, and so that kind of goes back to where, because then it doesn't feel as arbitrary.
Yeah,
it feels like an actual tactical or strategic decision.
Yeah.
Whereas in Munchkin, it often becomes like, well, I have this card that's going to make that monster too strong to beat you. I might as well throw it out there, and that just seems arbitrary.
Gotcha.
Whereas I agree, Unfair is a great example. It's one of the few that I really like that are pretty heavy take that because of that exact thing. I can usually see, like, if I'm getting hammered with take that cards, it's because I'm in a really strong position, and people are willing to sacrifice getting something for doing that. Whereas if I'm not doing well, people aren't going to be like, well, I guess I have this. I'll just play it on Adrian because fuck him. It's like, no, actually, Adrian's not winning, so I'd rather get the benefit because I'm in the lead.
Right.
You know, he doesn't seem nearly as willy-nilly with just fucking people.
I think, and I think take that also gets a lot of negative buzz because it's super easy to personalize something that it's just, like you said, because you can just throw it down, you know, I wouldn't say whenever, but you could be like, all right, you know, it's like, Adrian just did this one thing that sort of annoyed me. I'm just going to like fuck him over completely. And then it sort of just takes you both out of the equation. And I know some people really hate that.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you think about Take That, Jeff?
It's a rare occasion that it works well when the game's based around it. I mean, there's always a little bit of it in a couple different games, like Terraforming Mars has a couple Take That cards that are very much fuck you.
What do you think about games that have, because Terraforming Mars is the sort of one, Everdell is also another one, where it has the majority of the cards don't have that.
Yeah.
But then there are a couple that do. Like, do you feel that the game should have, if it has some, it should have more, or especially if it's card based, because then it becomes sort of more random as to who gets it?
Yeah. It's hard to say. I don't mind it in Terraforming Mars. It's okay in Everdell. There's only like 2.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yes, but there's 2 negative ones. Yeah.
But the negatives they have on them really, really suck.
Exactly.
Like, hey, I have 2 cards in my hand. I play this. I get your hand of 8 cards. These are mine now. You get my 2 cards. Like, that's totally, like, really, really, really bad.
Yeah.
I know most times that we've played that game, I've seen it. I end up grabbing the card just so no one can use it on me.
But like Sabotage in Terraforming Mars, it's like take 2 titanium, 3 iron, or 7 credits or something like that.
And I know that Adrian, you and Paul hate that card.
Yeah, there's like 2 in there that are really cheap to buy, and
that one in Virus.
It's like Hit and Run. It's the other minor version of Sabotage, I think.
Yeah, like Sabotage, Hit and Run, and I think Virus are the 3 that I really don't like. They're really inexpensive cards, like, so people aren't investing in a lot. They feel kind of like that arbitrary, like, oh, I got this in my hand, I guess I'll just throw it out there against whoever. And especially in a game like Terraforming Mars, where it's really hard mid-game to see who's actually in the lead. It feels like half the time it's just an arbitrary, like, I feel like
who has
Adrian's
the most of that
well,
resource,
or who has the most of that resource, regardless of their doing.
You're
well.
Clearly in last place, but you have 2 titanium, and I'm just going to take the titanium because that gets me the best money or whatever.
And so it can lead to kind of a punching down effect too that you don't typically see with like Unfair, where they kind of balance.
But there's only like 1 card.
Yeah, and in a huge deck like that, it's easy to just take them out if they really bother you.
Yeah. And there are some other negative cards in there too, but those aren't like events. They sit in front of you, and most of those have like negative victory points on them. So even though you are impacting someone with like stealing energy or money or whatever,
stealing production or something like that,
you get like a -1 or -2 points at the end of the game.
Yeah. Which, and I don't feel like the asteroids in Terraforming Mars are particularly take that-y, because there usually is enough of a benefit to whoever's playing it that it's like, okay, well, I understand that you're targeting me, but it's, a lot of times it's like, hey, sorry that I'm going to burn your plants, but I really need all of this heat and iron. And
for me, I view that as just the same as the Sabotage, because you're playing that card, you're losing stuff and I'm gaining stuff. It just happens that instead of you're losing A and B and I'm gaining C and D, you're losing A and B and I'm getting A and B. That's the only difference I see.
Well, some of those, I think it's the Virus one. The Virus, you don't get anything.
The Virus one,
destroy.
Yeah, I wasn't talking about that one. That one I can understand. That one doesn't bother me. None of those bother me. But it's the fact that you and Paul hate the Sabotage one the most, and that's the one where you're stealing stuff, and I feel that's just the same as the asteroid, except that it's just the same resource instead of you're gaining. Like I said, you're losing plants, and I'm gaining whatever.
So, I'm trying to find if I can find Sabotage, because I feel like Sabotage, it might be Paul's least favorite. I don't feel like it is mine. The other thing that is really bad with Sabotage, it has a picture, but I don't know if it'll show all of the... Oh, you've got them right there.
-3 titanium, -4 iron, or -7 credits.
Yeah, so you don't gain shit from it.
Oh, you don't gain it?
No.
Okay. Oh, that's what it was, is that I'm attacking. Yeah. Okay. Now that makes more sense. I'm thinking of the one, because there are ones where I just steal the stuff from you.
Yeah. Like Hackers doesn't bother me as much, because Hackers is you lose an energy, you lose 2 money production, or you lose an energy, someone else loses 2 money production, you gain 2 money production.
Okay.
So you're spending an energy, so there's a little bit of a trade off. It's also a -1 point card, where a Sabotage is just a 1 cost card that just takes away titanium, iron, or money.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and Virus the same way. It costs 1, and it just kills animals.
It's you don't like those cards because I'm choosing you, you're losing stuff, and then that's it. There's no counteracting balance. So the asteroids are you're losing stuff, but I'm gaining stuff.
Well, there's higher cost.
Well, yes, but you're losing stuff and I'm gaining stuff versus you're losing stuff.
Yes.
And that feels more targeted.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I still don't mind those cards, but I can understand that point.
Yeah. And even like Hackers is the other one that this person has here is like the 3 worst cards in Terraforming Mars. Hackers is at least 3 cost plus the 3 to get it in the first place. So it's 6. And there's the energy cost and the 1 point cost at the end of the game. So again, it feels like more of a tactical decision of like, I'm willing to lose the energy and the point now to get that money boost and, also take, whoever's in the lead on money and pull them back a little.
All right.
And those usually, like that one also tends to go towards whoever is just running away with income, which losing 2 income, if it comes out like early when everybody's at 0, then that sucks if it happens in the first couple rounds. But if it comes out a little bit later in the game, then it's not as big a deal.
Gotcha. Do you find take that better at all if you can see who's in the lead or you can't?
I think I don't know, because I go back and forth because I don't like just the pile on the leader.
Exactly.
Balance. So it depends on whether does the game balance require pile on the leader, in which case, fuck that, design your game better. Design actual balance.
Okay.
If it's just kind of a natural byproduct of people playing games and that being such a common strategy, then that's different. If it's part of the game design, I don't like it. If it's part of the strategy that comes through playing, then I don't mind it as much. Those might sound like the same things, but I think there's a subtle difference there that makes it different for me.
Okay.
Like, something going back to Rising Sun, because that's exactly how I feel Rising Sun is. I
was going to say Chaos in the Old World.
Chaos in the Old World. Eric Lang area control games. To me, they're barely better than Munchkin in that they rely on pile on the leader. Like they rely on people actively getting fuck you-y towards whoever's in the lead and kind of holding them back for certain groups to not just run away with it.
Okay. So like, just for clarification, like, are we sort of talking about like take that and attacking at the same sort of thing?
I mean, we kind of have shifted.
That's what I'm asking. Or are we sort of just getting
the way you asked me that question,
I
feel like brings attacking right into that.
Okay.
And a lot of take that is attacking.
Yes. Well, that's what I was going to say.
They kind of do go hand in hand.
Yes. Okay. So what area control games would you say don't have that? Where it is you can directly attack somebody, but you can't have it to where you can just sort of pile on whoever's winning.
I feel like, so for instance, Game of Thrones, I think is a pretty good example. Like ultimately, like if you do overextend, somebody's going to people are going to kind of target you.
Okay. I would say,
but I don't feel like that's a key game component or game mechanic of like, they're starting to get in the lead. We have to smash them. It usually comes as a direct result of like, you betrayed a bunch of people in your thrust for the victory.
Okay.
You came up short and now people are pissed because you betrayed them and now you're overextended. And so it's a natural consequence of that, not the game only works if you like pile on the leader. Like, yeah, you could break that game if you just ignored that person at that point. Like, they just conquered 9 castles. We're just going to ignore them and wait for them to get their 10th.
It's 7.
Or 7.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember.
So
it's been
6
a long
and 7.
time.
Okay.
Yeah. They got to 6 castles and they're 1 away, but we're not going to attack any of their castles. We're going to keep trying to do our own thing. Yes, you'll break the game at that point if you don't attack them. But I feel like in my plays of Rising Sun, it regularly felt like if people weren't countering correctly, if there wasn't the right amount of like, this thing's overpowered, but this other thing is overpowered in a slightly different way to where it can counteract that overpower. And if you don't maintain that balance and somebody just fucking runs away with it, which I don't feel like. I feel like in Game of Thrones, most of the games I played of Game of Thrones, the people who win are people who time a big push and betrayal all in one turn.
Okay.
So they make one big push, and Twilight Imperium's another one that does this. Somebody gets they get kind of close and they're like, can I do this? They make a big push, and if they fall short, then yeah, they're fucked. But it doesn't require people to constantly be like, he's getting close to 8. We better fuck him up. And then, it doesn't do the Munchkin route of whoever's in first gets fucked, whoever's in second gets fucked, and whoever's in third now wins. which I feel is what I don't know. I see that in other games, but it's less obvious that somebody's in first, so they just run away with it, and then
it's less obvious in Rising Sun that they're in first. Is that what you're saying?
Sometimes.
Okay.
I feel like there's been some games where somebody was just clearly running away with it the whole time because nobody was counteracting them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if you're the one person who's like, dude, he's running away with this, like somebody who has an ability to like I can't counteract him because of my abilities and my dynamo that I've gotten, my Oni that I've gotten, you know, the things I have, I can't really counteract, you know, Zach who's running away with it. But Jeff, you need to do this. And Jeff's like, nah, I'm going to try and win this other way. And then Zach's like, cool, nobody's fucking with me. I'm just going to run away with the game. And that sucks. Like that, I don't like.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because it requires the direct player interaction, but it requires players to apply it properly.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's actually not quite at all like Munchkin.
Right.
I just hate them both so much. And they have similar levels of player interaction.
Okay.
And attacking, and take that.
Okay. Your eyes are real wide, Jeff.
What's it? There's no reason for that.
Okay.
Reading about Terraforming Mars still.
Yeah. People have made like peaceful variants where you take out all the shit cards and stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Boring.
Mean cards.
Right. Yeah.
I will say
someone was even like, take out all the asteroids, and I was like,
no,
that's gonna break the game.
Yeah. Because plants can be super powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, good God. I would love to be the Green Corporation in a asteroidless game.
Yeah. They toned it down to like 11 different cards that are like attack cards that they would take out, like predators and sabotage and protected habitats, as it prevents stealing and would be redundant because there is no more as we've taken out the rest of the cards that can steal.
I mean,
they're not
I understand
wrong.
The logic, but
yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I don't know, Zach, what about you? How do you feel about take that and a little bit attacking and things like that?
I mean, I feel like sort of ganging up on the leader, like you were saying, and attacking are sort of like, I feel like it's sort of it's sort of the different parts of the same thing.
Yeah.
In that, I mean, with Game of Thrones, you can clearly see when somebody, like every time they take a castle, they update, so they're getting closer, so you can see exactly how close they are to winning. And if someone is up to 6, people are going to attack that person because they're winning.
Yeah, but I feel like in most of the games I played of Game of Thrones, granted it's been quite a while since I played Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
People didn't you didn't gradually build to 6.
Mm-hmm.
You gradually build to 4, maybe 5, and then you push for 6. And it's usually you
push
4,
for 7, but yeah.
And you push for 7, and you get 2 out of your 3, and then you're like, I misjudged.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like with area control, it's just I can understand the concept of you don't like how Eric Lang's his area control is based around overpowered strategies, and it's just different overpowered strategies and how they sort of work within themselves.
Correct.
But I feel like that is, I don't know. It's the quietness from Jeff is just.
I know, he's silent.
It's reading.
So much reading.
Yeah. There's no player interaction going on right now.
No.
Very much doing his own thing.
We're ignoring him, and he's about to unveil his overpoweredness and take over.
I know. I just for me, I would say the only interesting area control games have that as an option because you can directly influence somebody. That if someone gets out ahead, and I would say the only difference between the Game of Thrones in that regard and Munchkin is that it's really hard in Munchkin to go more than one level at a time up. Because there are different monsters and stuff you can do, but it always came down to who was level 9, and then they make the push to 10. With Game of Thrones, it's like you're saying, if you want to go to the 5 castles, and then you try and make a push for 2 at the same time. So that is just sort of
obfuscations.
No.
Well, and I think a big part of the difference too is there's so much else going on in Game of Thrones. It has the actual, negotiation and betrayal and backstabbing and all of that goes into it. And the combat is less lopsided because somebody throws an arbitrary take that. Game of Thrones doesn't have take that. And the take that aspect of the piling on the leader is more of my problem with Munchkin.
All right. Okay.
Than the piling on the leader specifically.
From an area control perspective.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. That's fine then.
Yeah.
I was just wanting to say that those are different in my mind. And so.
Yeah, no, and I think there is a difference.
Okay.
I was just doing research on some of my favorite types of those games.
Well, such as?
Like Inish.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a lot of take that in there. But you don't want to take that too much because one of the whole win conditions is be like leader over a bunch of other people's clans. And if you're killing them all off, you are not going to be able to be their leader anymore because they're all dead.
Yeah. You're a leader of a graveyard.
Yes. And it is a decent area control game that has a lot of different ways to win, but is not like...
I don't feel like Inish actually really has take that, though.
There are some of the land powers and stuff that can be like the salt mines or the iron mines or something like that, where you just be like, your dudes are just my dudes now, and sucks to be you.
Right.
But that's definitely on the lighter side of where that's balanced, and you can always be like, hey, I need to go get that away from you.
Right.
So I can use it. But yeah, Inish. It's a good game.
Is one of the area control games I do like more than I typically expect to like area control.
Right.
I have a lot of other issues with area control that don't have to necessarily do with the player interaction aspect of it, but that's for another discussion.
So that's attacking.
Yes.
A bit of attacking.
Yeah. It's a big part of interaction. Attacking the other person.
Yeah. So you have something I want, I'm just going to go take it.
Oh, yeah, and the Epic Tales cards. Those had a lot of...
Yes, they did.
Take that on.
Yeah. See, so like Inish lists for mechanisms a bunch of different stuff, but not take that. Whereas like take that, they've got a list, because take that they actually have as a mechanism, not just a type of area control.
Yeah.
And so like the top 5 games that have take that as a mechanism listed on them: Rising Sun, Lords of Waterdeep, Star Realms, Chaos in the Old World, and Cosmic Encounter. Waterdeep and Star Realms surprise me.
I wouldn't say so, just because
Star Realms is just like your base is destroyed because I played that card.
Yeah, and then also like you have to discard cards and shit like that.
Yeah.
And then Lords of Waterdeep mandatory quests. You're trying to do quests. Yeah. I'm playing this now. You have to do this instead.
I forgot about mandatory quests in Waterdeep. Yep. That one I do buy.
It's because we only think about Champions of Midgard.
Exactly.
Anymore.
Yeah.
Right. Star Realms, it doesn't feel like take that to me
because it's so quick.
Well, I think it's a 2-player game, so of course, and it's a 2-player game where you're fighting each other. So it doesn't feel like a zinger.
It's still a take that.
It is still a
bad take that.
I know, it just feels different. Yeah, is all I'm saying.
It feels good to take that.
Well, and it's more understandable. Like, well, who else are you going to do that to? You're clearly not doing it because you dislike me. You're doing it because I'm your enemy and I'm the only enemy.
Yeah, at two players, it pretty much becomes a zero-sum game.
Yeah.
It's just like, I'm playing this, so you have to lose that.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. Imperial Settlers, they list as take that. I fucking love Imperial Settlers. It's the next one.
Yeah.
If I had taken it to 6, Imperial Settlers was next.
But it was only 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, speaking of Imperial Settlers, do you feel like one of the reasons it can be better, or some people like it better in that regard, is that when people attack you, you get something for it? So it's like, oh, you destroyed this card, but it's a ruin, so now I can build on top of that, and then also I get a wood for you destroying it or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Do you think that softens the blow of it because someone attacking you, it doesn't take away everything from that card? It's just, it gets rid of that card, but it allows you to do something else on top of it?
I mean, I don't think that's the sole difference. I think there's a lot of other things that go into how that game plays that I just like.
No, I mean, I'm just asking, in that regard, do you think that helps?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Also, it's not a huge part of the game, I think, is the bigger part. Like, if the game was just constantly smash each other's shit, then I wouldn't like it as much.
No, I know that. I'm just saying to take that aspects of the game. It's one you're saying is that it's because it's not a big part of the game, which is...
I'm much more okay with take that if it is a minor part of the game than if it is the game.
Okay.
Again, why I don't like Munchkin. Munchkin is just take that, the game.
Okay. Should we go on to a different...
I think so.
One, since...
Yes.
Keep referring to the first one that we were talking about.
So let's talk then about, I lost my lists. There they are. Let's talk about like a diplomacy from the one, or well, the other one doesn't even really have that. Yeah, your list doesn't have diplomacy, Jeff. We're gonna talk about diplomacy because we're talking about things like Game of Thrones and Twilight Imperium, where discussion, intrigue, backstabbing, alliances are all big parts of those games.
How about making temporary teams?
Yeah. I like it in any game I'm not playing with Zach, because Zach will just convince me to be bestest best friends right up until the blade slides smoothly into my lower back. No, I think that, I wish I had played like Diplomacy, the game that bears the name of the entire type of player interaction. Because I feel like that'd be a good one to talk about here. But like they list here for examples of diplomacy: Cosmic Encounter, Game of Thrones, Eclipse, Twilight Imperium.
Well, because
Eclipse is interesting. I don't feel like it feels Euroed enough that I don't feel like there's a lot of diplomacy in Eclipse. I mean, there is in the sense that there can be in any game.
Well, there are like you can specifically make alliances if you play with enough people.
That's right. They do have that.
Yeah.
Man, I need to play more Eclipse. I didn't say you need to.
I know.
Cosmic Encounter is an interesting one on here, especially because I hate Cosmic Encounter.
Well, I think it's I would view it similar to Game of Thrones in that you can't win by yourself. So trying to make alliances to helps you. Except it is good. Just accept that
they're also trying to win, so they think they're
not just that, but also multiple people can win in Cosmic Encounter. Only one person can win in Game of Thrones.
True.
So
and the rest die.
Because in the Game of Thrones, you win or you die.
Yeah.
So the winner gets an actual knife.
Yes.
Stabs all the other players.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's why we had to stop playing. We were running out of friends to play Game of Thrones with. We
keep killing them off.
all.
Yeah.
But like games like Game of Thrones and Twilight Imperium, like there's heavy bickering and trading and negotiating going around.
Yeah.
Like, hey, if I trust you not to attack me here, I promise I won't attack you there, and then we can both send our things to attack somebody else. And then inevitably somebody's like, "Ah, man, I've kind of you trusted me too much. There's no defense there. I left a small defense. You left no defense.
Right.
That's gonna hurt."
I think part of that is that, especially a lot of those games in the infancy of the game, like the start of the game, it's if two people start fighting each other immediately, and like two people don't, those two people are going to grow a lot more. Because I feel, especially with Twilight Imperium, is that there's enough, like you don't need to fight somebody until you can't expand anymore without going into somebody else's territory. Once all territory has been claimed, then it becomes all right, I need to start getting this, start getting that. But
who can I attack? Who can I not attack? Who do I think is going to be able to defend? Who do I think is not? And who can? Yeah.
And it's because it's such a long game that if I attack you, that means you're not going to be like, all right, well, you got me, and then you're going to go do something. No, you're going to build up a force, and then you're going to fight me, and then now I'm engaged in shit, and so we are gaining and losing stuff. Where Jeff is just like, well, I'm just going to keep exploring over here and just gaining, and then he'll have a vastly superior force to ours, and then be able to just take over both of us. And so
happens all the time in the real world.
Yes, yeah, exactly,
or at least used to, not as much anymore.
And so I think part of these games is you need to know, all right, we don't want to fight right now because it's just going to end up hurting both of us. So it's all about temporary alliances to increase both of our standing, with the implied just that there's an implied trust that can break at any moment. And really, it's just all about being the one that breaks it first.
Yes. So overall, how do you guys feel about diplomacy negotiation as a type of player interaction?
Oh, I love it.
It's good. I mean, I think Twilight Imperium is probably where it comes out most in games that I've played with you people recently. Otherwise, it's just sort of table talk about strategy and things like that.
Yeah.
But we haven't really played a game that needs much diplomacy lately.
I would say one that sort of did it badly was Rising Sun. Just in the sense that it was
There's supposed to be that.
There's supposed to be that, and you have to sort of force it to find it.
Yeah.
Which I think we talked about in our extensively long review. That the diplomacy is there if you
they mention in the rule book, right?
Yeah, they mention the rule book, but playing the game, it doesn't.
There's no mechanic behind
There's no mechanic that makes you feel like. I mean, there's the tea ceremony, but it always seemed to be like, Jeff, you want to be an ally? Sure. Yeah. Okay, the ally's done.
Arbitrary. It feels arbitrary.
It feel like I said it. Once you get down deeper, it's not. But I feel that disconnect hurts the game in that respect.
Yeah.
And so I feel that because honestly, I think because it forces diplomacy, it makes it feel arbitrary until you realize that it's not.
Yeah.
That like trying to get, become allies with the first player or people that get extra cards is going to benefit you more, or people, looking at the board to see which spots you need and if they're not in their areas and stuff like that. But with Game of Thrones and Twilight Imperium, it's not, it's there. Like you feel it immediately, but it's not like the game's like, hey, you should go make friends with them.
Yeah.
We're going to give you about 5 minutes. Just go make friends with people. It's no, you just playing the game and you're like, I need to make friends with these people. Or else I'm going to get fucked.
Yeah. And Twilight Imperium has a whole phase of politics and you just talk about voting on things.
Exactly. And then that speaking of sort of take that is that like when there becomes a big leader in Twilight Imperium, a lot of times the politicking is how can we fuck over that one person?
Yes. As hard as possible.
Yeah. And then I think with diplomacy, it becomes a lot more about playing the person. Like how we're describing with you is I become friends with you and then I convince you that I'm not going to do shit until I do shit. And then I convince you again, Adrian, it was a one-time thing.
It was just that one game. It'll be different this game. It's never different.
No, not even that. It was just one part of that game. It's fine. I'm not going to do it again. I'll give you a reason why. I'll explain to you why it made sense at the time. You would agree with me hesitantly, and then I would convince you to become friends again, and then stab you back again.
Stab you again.
Yeah. Or like with certain other people, it's like you do something good for them in the beginning, and then you don't fuck with them. They're not going to fuck with you.
Yeah.
And so that becomes part of just learning the players. And so that's that sort of interaction, I would say, gets better with friends versus people that you've never met. Because I know how you're going to react to stuff. I know how Jeff's going to react to shit. So versus trying to do ballsy shit with someone I don't know and it just blows up in my face.
Especially when I'm also playing and I tell them, don't believe anything he says.
Yeah. Oh, that's the worst is if you play with nobody, everybody is new except for Jeff. Because Jeff's going to be like, FYI, fuck this guy. And then everyone's like, well, I don't know any better, so sure. I'm like, God damn.
Mission complete.
Yeah. So it was a take that at the very beginning.
Yeah.
It was an out of game take that.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I do like playing negotiation games with new players who I don't know and who don't know me, because you don't get trapped into some of the same old like ways of playing.
That's true.
And it's kind of fun to try and suss out people's styles and motivations as you play.
Yeah. Also, it becomes a lot harder to bullshit people when they know you're going to bullshit them.
Yes.
So...
Yeah, and I guess this diplomacy also comes into a bunch of different other games like Werewolf and social deduction games and things like that, because those are also mostly just chatting around.
Yeah.
But, less of a game around those, more than just trying to be like,
that I feel like that's the most definite or the most literal definition of like player interaction, because it's not even your character. It's like I'm interacting with you, Jeff.
Yes.
Let's do this. Fuck over Adrian.
Yeah.
And
yeah. Even Adrian's a villager. You just want everyone to murder Adrian.
Yeah.
Well, I don't play werewolf anymore. I never make it out of the third round. I'm like me, Bob,
Nick.
Zach to some extent, Nick. Like if you make it more than 3 rounds, something's wrong.
Werewolf, hang him.
Yeah, hang him high.
Murder him.
Yeah. Adrian hasn't been murdered by werewolves by the 3rd round. He must be a werewolf. Let's murder him.
Yeah.
Sounds about right. Which then, when you've played with enough people, the werewolves know this. They're like, no, we don't need to murder Adrian. Let him survive 3 nights, and then they'll kill him for us.
Yeah.
So yeah, knowing your audience in diplomacy clearly
can really affect that.
Yeah.
What do we want to talk about next for types of player interaction?
Is auctioning?
I mean, so auctioning is sort of, yes. So I think one of the things you talked about was Cyclades as like an auctioning thing, right, Adrian?
No, Cyclades came up in the racing positioning,
which I guess auctioning would sort of be the same thing in that regard, because that when you're auctioning to figure out who's going to get, or you're bidding to get specific abilities.
Yeah,
but I've never played it, so I don't know.
You should. I like it.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's slower paced.
Yeah,
it's there's another game I was playing that was sort of like that one. I don't know. Anyway, that's a whole different thing.
What I think is interesting. So Zach, I thought I was very surprised that you did not like Neue Heimat as much, considering how much it has the potential in a game about auctioning to really get fuck you. Auctioning to deny people, auctioning to intentionally place things in such a way as to hurt them.
Right.
Like that's a game that to me feels like it's got a ton of player interaction. It's all about playing the other players, getting in each other's way, blocking each other, trying to do all that.
Right. I know. I feel like it was sort of the same with Paul. I don't know if it was the same for Jeff or not, but there was some, once again, just another disconnect that I didn't feel.
It was dry.
Well, not just that. Not just that.
Not just that.
I mean, but he's asking about the actual auctioning.
I mean, Ponzi scheme is pretty fucking dry, but it has a lot of the same things I love about Ponzi scheme are a lot of what I love about Neue Heimat / the Estates. And I know you love.
I know I love Ponzi.
In the Ponzi scheme, you're like moving money around and card interaction, and in the Estates, you're just sort of like putting blocks on.
I think it just like there was a disconnect between what was on the board and that feeling of denial and blocking. It just, for whatever reason, it didn't come out to me or Paul or anything. It was just like, well, all right, we're bidding on this thing. Do I want it or not? Sure. No, I'll just get something else then, and then I'll put it here. I don't know. There was just some disconnect that I never felt a desire to block or a need to block anybody or to not try and set myself up to not be blocked or anything like that.
Which is weird, because in all of my first plays, like before I played with you, I'd played like 2 or 3 times, and in all of them, everybody immediately like saw that and saw like, oh shit, I can bid to get a piece that you control to put it somewhere where it's going to score you negative. And then people was getting bidding wars over that, and it was intense. And
how many times had they played before?
That no, he's introduced it to a lot of people.
Yeah,
okay. And it's just our group was the only one where it didn't work out.
Our group, which it was weird because our group was a group I expected to love that.
And I saw the things that you were talking about, but I remember there was like, oh, I guess I'll try and do this over here, and I couldn't do it. Okay, oh well. Like I don't know. It just, for whatever reason, it just didn't connect with any of us.
Weird.
Yeah.
But an auctioning mechanic that does connect with all of us is stockpile.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the auction is such a small part of
some would say vital.
But the way it's such a fixed auction, like there's fixed bid points. It's
and so you can take that into consideration.
Yeah.
For if everybody has 24,000, I know that if I bid 20,000, nobody then I'll win for that amount. So you can try and, if you feel like, especially playing the app a lot, you can definitely try and overload a stockpile if you feel that you can win it regardless, and then that you'll get more money out of it. Or you can try and be like, that one's going to be very important, and I'm not going to be able to win it. So I'm going to throw, I'm going to throw stocks that don't mean shit, or I'm going to throw in, the fees and things like that to make them lose even more money. And then also trying to figure out how much someone is going to try and bid on something. If they really want it, you can make them pay a lot more. And
it's definitely on the easier side of auction mechanics.
Yes, no, definitely. But I know for me at least, that's what I think one of the things I like about it is that it's
easy to grasp all the different parts that you need to know.
Yeah, and that there is a maximum. That's one of my favorite things about it is that, this is super good for me. No, I'm just going to win that one.
Yeah.
It's going to cost me a lot, but no one can do shit about that.
Yeah.
On the complete opposite side, Indonesia.
There's not really an auction in Indonesia.
Well, when you're trying to go through all the different corporations and stuff like that, like buying.
Isn't there it's a bidding for like turn order. Yeah.
That's not an auction. That's a small bid. It's a small part of the game.
Well, it's certainly interaction.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of other ways that Indonesia has interaction.
There's bidding for companies and shit too. That is literally like your
Oh, you're talking about the merger.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, companies.
sorry.
Yeah.
it's like that's a huge one.
Yeah, pretty sure I'm getting that correct, and you're just dumb.
Yeah,
He was just misunderstanding.
I still do think there's I don't know. I feel like there's a difference between. I guess there's really not, because auctioning and bidding basically go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm. It's whether it's just a 1-round auction or, you just keep going until someone wins.
Well, because
and then whatever that fucking game, the Tramways, that's the one with the auction that I hate, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh man, that's got one of the best auctions in any fucking game ever. Tramways has such a cool auction mechanic.
It's so convoluted.
It's not. It's pretty simple. It's. I'm not going to try and explain it without having the board there, because you need the board to show it. But yeah, you just need to be able to keep bidding. You just have to stay in a position where you
understand
keep
it.
bidding.
I just feel that it's just complicated for the sake of being complicated. More complicated than it needs to be. Anyway.
Yeah. We need to focus. We're not so much reviewing a shit ton of games. We need to talk more about mechanics.
So what do you feel about auctions? Like,
I fucking love auctions.
Okay.
What's your favorite auction?
Either Tramways or Indonesia.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, those are two games that I think do really interesting things with that mechanic. Or Neuheimat. Like, one of the most cutthroat auction. Like, it's auctioning the game, and it gets in 90% of the times I've played it, gets cutthroat and mean, and there's a ton of player interaction, and is just an absolute blast to play. Those are easily 3 of my top favorite auction games. I love that auctioning, there's more than just playing the banks of people. Like, how much money do they have? I could just overbid and boom.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the things I love about Tramways is there is a room to do kind of a low roll strategy where you let people bid high, and you bid just enough to stay in, and then swoop in 3 rounds in when they don't have money and catch first position for way less than, I've seen people pay the most in that auction and still come out last because they just bid poorly, and I love that. I love being punished for suboptimal play. I mean,
I think you just remove that second half of that statement.
No, because I don't like being punished for optimal play. It's why I don't like take that.
You like being punished.
No, because I don't always like being punished. I'm not always super masochistic.
Mm-hmm, right. I know for me, I don't like. I think what it is I don't like auctions where I bid and then I lose that money before getting a chance to bid again. I think that's what it is.
Well, I mean, that's the case with Tramways.
I know, but I feel like there's some other ones I played where it was like bidding. Like, you spend money, and I don't.
Yeah, no, because there are a few, I think, where every round, like, you're actually paying your bid.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get it back if you didn't win.
Yeah, that's what it is. I don't like that.
Yeah, I like it in some cases. In other cases, I'm fine without that. One of the things I really like about the Indonesia auction is since you own shares and it pays out in share amounts, you can try and chase a price up and then cash out and know that you're going to get a whole bunch of money back. Or even if you buy it, like, the bid's really high, but you're only going to have to pay half that bid out. So if you've got the money to cover it, you can get things. You got a big bankroll. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Auctions are another area where I think player interaction can get very interactive.
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong there. I was never that big fan of auctioning for player order, but I do like what Brass did of
how much money you
spent determined player order.
Yeah. I wouldn't quite call it an auction, but I see what you're saying.
No, I'm saying instead of auctioning for first player for that interaction, it's
just your turn.
And then you take that in consideration.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So what's next on the list?
I mean, we may as well get to blocking.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be another 40 minutes.
No, okay. No, that one not as much.
Yeah, well, no. So those, I think, are
our favorite to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Looking through the list, those I feel like the ones we've talked about there, auction kind of starts to tread the line. But take that and attacking are like very much direct interaction.
I'd say like they are what people think of when they think of player interaction.
Yeah.
And then and the next one would be.
However, now we can talk a little bit more about indirect player interaction with things like resource competition, blocking,
denial, that sort of
stuff.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. Which essentially, it's funny, like I was able to come up with a bunch of games that I love for all of that first half. And now we're moving into like the games I really love. Auction's like the nice bridge. Worker placement and stuff. You know, you'll have games like Agricola, Larve, Feast for Odin for Uli games, you know, all of the Vital worker placements and things. Those
I would not say, especially like Gallerist.
Yeah, because even Venios you can just pay to follow. So it's not the same. It's not blocking.
That's
like
sort of the opposite of it.
Knockout actions.
It's not,
Well,
it's a bonus for impeding someone's way. They still get to do the thing, but you get to do something else. So I wouldn't say it's instead of denying, I'm stopping you from doing it. It's you can do this, but I get something else because I was already here.
But sometimes that stops people from doing it. Well, I was going to go there, but there's no way I'm giving you a kick out. I'm going to go somewhere else. You know, but a lot of worker placement games, you know, even on the more basic side of them, Lords of Waterdeep, Champions,
Stone Age, all those,
Raiders. You know, you place your worker somewhere, and you're not necessarily going over there and interfering with somebody else in any kind of direct way. It's very indirect, but now they can't do that action.
Yep.
You know, and
so I'd say great. You know, Agricola is a great example of that, and that it's like you want to build a family member. I got there first. Well, good luck. Try and get it next round.
Yep. and especially Agricola, where other resources are really tight. Like, oh, you wanted coal or iron or whatever. Like, I got the only one. You know, stone. There's one early and then one late. Wood. There's an
amount of wood.
Yeah, an amount. Like, oh yeah, I got 12 because I got there this round. You can take 3 next round. Sorry. You know, and then that can really mess with people's plans. You know, and you might not even do it intentionally. It might not be like you're like, ooh, Adrian's gonna want that wood next round. I'm gonna take it this round. It's usually like,
I want that wood before Adrian.
I want that wood. I got it. You know, I think Adrian might take it. I'm gonna jump on it now.
Yeah, I think that's one of the problems you'll find with some is that it's like, yes, I can block you, but if I have if you have 5 other options, me taking like number 1 out of 6 and number 2 out of 6 most of the time is pretty much as good. So you don't feel you're like, damn, okay, well, I'll just do this instead.
Yeah. So for the blocking denial portion of player interaction, how do you guys feel about that? Like, for me, it's one of my favorite types. Like, I fucking love worker placement. I love that. I feel like I still have to kind of get in other people's heads. Like, I need to try and anticipate if I want a spot, if I want a resource, if I want to get all that wood that's piled up in Agricola, I need to know when to time it. Like, can I wait another round for more resources to be there before I jump over there, or is somebody else going to get ahead of me? You know, and that's where things like turn order and those become so important. Like, some games, turn order doesn't hardly matter at all. But in a lot of worker placements, turn order is huge. And
so much so that there's a spot dedicated to becoming first.
Yes.
So you're literally be like, I'm not really going to do much this round so that I can make sure I can do stuff a lot better next round.
Yeah, I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit to make sure I get to do that one thing next turn. So I love it. So how do you guys feel about it? I know, Zach, we'll come back to you because I think you're probably going to be a little bit more down on it in some ways, since you're not a huge Euro heavy gamer. But Jeff, what do you think? How do you feel about worker placement, blocking mechanisms? You know, especially as it relates to player interaction, because that's ostensibly what we're talking about in this rambling episode.
Well, I was specifically thinking more about brass and how blocking works in that, where you can kind of take advantage of certain spots, and you're really trying to get there first before what you think other people can do. Like you've said, one of your favorite plays of any game recently at all was when you really screwed over Megan by taking all of her shipping routes before she could.
Yes.
And that's definitely one of my more like favorite portions of those heavier games is sort of getting that strategy out just before someone else and not a half a turn after, which is always.
What game was that I was always half a turn behind?
Oh, man.
Founders of Gloomhaven.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because every time I wanted to do something, it was like, and they're going to build it here, so I can't do that. Son of a bitch.
Yep. Yeah. It gets back around. Son of a bitch.
Yep.
Son of a bitch. Son of a bitch.
Which could easily be one of the more frustrating things about those kind of games. If you get behind on that economy that comes from placing your workers out there, it can be hard to get back in the lead. You know, they got a bunch of wood in Agricola. They get to build their fences, which means they get to start getting animals. Meanwhile, you have to wait for the wood to pile back up. Then you get the wood. Then you build your fences. Now you're behind in animals and you're just trailing, you know, and you got to really be good at, well, shit, that didn't work out. I need to pivot to something else almost entirely that I can still lead in.
First, you get the jobs. Then you get the khakis. Then you get the women.
Yes.
What?
That was a sick basketball reference.
Yes, it was.
Oh, God, I don't remember the last time I saw basketball.
You're missing out.
Yeah.
Anyways, blocking.
Zach, how do you feel about it?
Well, wait, did you have anything else?
That's just my most recent interaction with indirect interactions. That was very enjoyable. But
I mean,
some of those games are real hard to get your.
I mean, I would say the Brass, like a lot of it had a decent amount of direct interaction.
Also, that
in the sense of like Megan, really what
that was very direct.
That was is that I like what I like in a lot of games is taking advantage of people's mistakes.
Yeah,
and that's what worked out really well in that. Almost did that with Paul, and then he like right before I was about to do it, he was like, wait, no, I take my turn back. And it was just like
that was about to be a critical error.
You were about to fuck up if you didn't take that back. I like blocking. I like blocking. It's usually a lot of Euro games I just don't find interesting enough. That's like, really, it's not the Euro mechanism that I find boring. It's just a lot of the games that are built around it. They just don't work for me.
You're just not, you can't get involved.
I'm not invested in it.
Well, and that makes sense because like you tend to care for the big theme and everything to give you a reason to care.
Yeah.
So it could have really great mechanisms, but if you're just
like Agricola
doing it
every time I'm playing, I'm just like, okay, I'm building. Like I don't feel invested in what I'm doing.
See, I love building my fucking farm.
It's just a fucking farm,
like every other farm.
Yeah, exactly. There are a lot of farms like it, and mine is a lot like a lot of them because it's just it's
it's the best.
It's just a farm.
This is my farm. There are many like it, but this one is mine.
No, there are just many like it. It's just, that's why I specifically like that. I think that's one of the reasons why I haven't liked the Beetle games is because it's like
the blocking's too soft.
Well, yeah, it's because it's not even blocking for me.
Yeah,
it's. You call it blocking because you're like, oh, I don't want to give you a kick out. I don't view it as that. It's just, I'm here. Do you want to do your thing? Then you can do something else, but I can't stop you from doing that.
Yeah.
And so I was ready. I was like, oh man, there's like great presentation here. This is could be an interesting theme for me. And then just the mechanisms that's where the game lost me.
Gotcha.
And so I do like blocking as a mechanism because like you said, it's, it's all like getting, I can deny somebody something by going there, and then it's
a recent example might be Yokohama.
Yes, yeah, by going as
relatively recent.
Yeah, a year and a half.
Yeah, I don't know.
I feel like that was right around our first anniversary.
Yeah,
I do like it, but it tends to be. It doesn't make or break a game for me. So I like blocking, but. That doesn't, I mean, like I said, it just doesn't, there are a lot of games I don't like that have it, but.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And then to kind of wrap up indirect player interaction, I feel like the next good one to talk about is trading and negotiation in like more of a resource trading. So like a great example for this is like Settlers of Catan, where like a huge part of it is trying to, and we kind of touched on a lot of what you get out of this, I guess, in the negotiation, because it is a negotiation. Like, I'll give you this. What do you give me?
Right, yeah.
But trading is much more, I feel that the subtle difference is it's shorter term. like a lot of time negotiation in like a Game of Thrones or Twilight is going to last multiple rounds. Like, hey, we're going to work together for a little while, right? Like, we're going to be allies for a bit. And then when you betray me, it's shocking. Whereas, or in some cases, not so shocking. But whereas like in like a Settlers or something where you're trading resources, then it is really just this is a one-off transaction. Like, I will block the shit. I will drop the robber on you so fast next turn. You have no fucking clue. You know, but it's another one where it because it's, unless you just really take advantage of someone in a trade, in which case they might not, like, you've done a good job negotiating, they maybe don't realize it for a little while. It often doesn't come across as player interaction, or at least
I would say a game that has the best version of player interaction with trading is Ponzi's scheme, because it's force trading. I look at what everybody has, and I'm like, I'm gonna put money here, and I'm just like, hey Jeff, I'm buying your thing, or you're buying my thing. You have those are your only options.
I've given you option A or B. There is no option C.
Yeah. And then I do like the fact that, like, we get to see what happens. Obviously, it's like we see either that
the good move.
Yeah, Jeff buys it or Jeff doesn't. And then Adrian, that lets you know, oh, did Jeff just buy it? Where he doesn't have much money. You might be able to get it for cheaper.
Yeah.
Or maybe I have way more money than you think.
Yeah.
And then just keep
3 times in a row, everyone's just like,
how do you still have money?
Still have money? And then because when you get done with your interest round, you literally have nothing left.
Yes.
Down to the dollar.
Yeah. But I think that has one of my favorite versions of that trading, is because I'm forcing it, and you can't just be like, no, I don't want to trade with you. I want to save up or anything like that. It's like, no, we're doing this. It's going down now.
Yeah, I don't know. I really like trading. I mean, Catan's still one of my favorite, like, intro-based games. I still really like Catan for I don't know what reasons. I shouldn't. On paper, I probably shouldn't like Catan, but I still really do. I really love the trading in it. It can suffer a little bit from bringing in more of the take that pile on the leader kind of thing. Like, oh, no, I can see you've got 8 points on the board. You probably have one in a card hit somewhere. You're really close to winning. I'm not trading you shit. And you can kind of fall in that whole... John Company was another one, which you guys still haven't either one played, right?
Negative.
Where trying to oh, I'll do this for you, or that, if you do that for me, fell apart once somebody was clearly in a strong position. Paul spent a good chunk of that game just boxed out. But I don't know. I like trading. It's sometimes tough to. It's a fun puzzle. The things I like in all of these types of games where I like a mechanic or I don't like a mechanic often is how much it makes me think and how much I have to, like, puzzle something out, and trying to figure out relative values of things and how I can get a good deal on that. Like, what is this worth to me? What do I think it's worth to you? And how can I get a good deal on that? Is a fun puzzle for my brain. I like it.
Yeah, it's understandable. I do agree that, like, pretty much when you introduce player interaction, a lot of times you can also introduce king making.
Yeah.
And so with trading, it's just like you were saying, it's like, I was thinking of another one that I liked was Compounded. It was about, trying to fill out these things together. But if someone was clearly in the lead, most people are just be like, I don't want to trade with you. You're in the lead. And that it's that part of the game starts breaking down because you are ahead of everybody, which makes sense because you're ahead of everybody, and no one, if they don't have to do it, why would they if it's going to help you at all?
Yeah. What about you, Jeff? How do you feel about trading?
I like games that have more structured trading to it and not just whimsy of what you think is most valuable versus what is or isn't, because that can take a lot of, like Adrian was saying, a lot of heavy thinking of, like, how many sheep have come out? How much should this stone be worth versus how many of these wheats and things like that? Where stuff in, like, Twilight Imperium, it's like you're just trading straight up cards for, like, trade goods and things like that.
Yeah.
Those are definitely my more preferred method of trading. And the Ponzi scheme is also good. Just sort of trying to fuss out what you think is a good or bad deal is interesting, but it's not so much of It's money. It has a number.
It has a number, but that number is different for every single person.
Yes.
And whether or not they're the one doing that trade or they're the one receiving that trade.
Yeah.
And who that is. There's so many different variables that you can't
know those variables.
You can't
just have to make your best decision.
Exactly. Yes. That's another reason why I like it too, is you can't, if you like, you can try and AP it, but it's you're just looking at it and seeing, can I afford it? Yeah. And do I think they'll pay it?
After about a round, you can't anymore.
Yeah, exactly. You can try and assume that he's like, well, Jeff has to run out of money at some point.
Yeah.
And then, nope,
clearly not.
Clearly not.
Indeed. That kind of wraps up like the rough list.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there were a couple other ones in there, but they fit in weird spots and things.
Yeah.
And I feel like we can start to kind of bring some of this home a little bit. And let's talk in general. So we started the episode trying to figure out some games that don't have player interaction, that are truly multiplayer solitaire. So what I want to do here is have a small discussion / just each of us kind of give our opinions on this. Why are some games that don't have player interaction good? At least for some people. Like I love Welcome To, but there's almost no player interaction. Whereas some games that have a shit ton, like Munchkin, are widely considered bad. And how, and we've talked about a bunch of different ways that you can interact in games, and we've given examples of games that do all of those things great that we love. So kind of on a personal level for each of the three of us, what do we like about player interaction? And when are we okay with it taking a back seat? Let's do maybe kind of that way. What do we like about player interaction? Why do we enjoy it in games? But then also on the flip side, when are we okay with there not being much?
Right.
What makes it okay when it's not there?
Okay. Do you want me to just start?
Sure.
Okay. I like player interaction because I like playing with games with people. I really enjoy playing games where I can mess with people.
I really like seeing other people suffer a lot. And games are a good way to do that in a social setting.
I'm a masochist. It's a natural relationship.
Yeah, exactly. I like, one of my favorite things in games is whenever I've been able to convince someone that that's their best move and that they do it because they are convinced it's their best move, but it's also my best move. Like in Pretty Clever, where it was your best move, Jeff, and then I got 90-something points off the one time.
Something insane.
Yeah. I mean, that's a fairly recent example. Our gaming history over the last 5 years is littered with Zach doing that.
Yes.
I'm not going to take your dock on the brass board. You can also do this. And it was like, yeah, you can also go fuck yourself.
Yeah. No, I know often when I just try and throw that stuff out there versus actually trying to convince someone, it's like, it's actually trying to work for it. But I think what I like about player interaction is just interacting with players, as stupid as that is. And so, that's why there are a lot of Euro style games where it tends to be very indirect, and there are a lot of people I know. So Rado, I think, is a big proponent of, like, he and his wife like building things and then seeing who did the better build at the end, who built the best engine, and then who did it best. So that's it. And I know some people don't like it because instead of building up, you're tearing down.
Yeah.
Which like we were saying, I would love the idea if it's like we're building something and I could just be like, oh man, like this one pin is holding up your entire engine together. I'm just gonna
go ahead and remove that.
Remove that real quick. I'm gonna put an actual pin in there so it'll break.
Maybe you should have designed redundancies in your engine.
Exactly. And I get it that, some people don't like that because of whatever reason. Jeff was like, fuck you, Zach. And then I can't win. But I don't play, obviously, like I like winning, but I don't play every game to always win. If that makes sense?
Yeah.
So I'm okay as long as I'm interacting with people and not just sort of like, just doing my own thing while everybody else is doing their own thing, when theirs is clearly like theirs is just working a lot better. I don't know where that's going.
You like doing better than other people do.
I do like doing other people, but I like that if they're doing better than me, I can be like,
you're not going to do as well as you clearly are.
Exactly. And I get it when it goes too far, where like Munchkin, everyone just piles. It just becomes a dog pile at the top. But I like the idea of someone's getting ahead and you could be like, no, not yet. You come back down with us. And that fighting against that and winning is like, I really like it when I can win when everyone is trying to stop me from winning, and I still do.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that made sense.
I think it did.
We'll see in the edits.
Yes. Jeff, what about you?
I'm definitely more on the like lighter side of interaction. Sometimes I'm as someone that likes area control games a lot. Like Rising Sun was getting a little too much. I wish I liked Chaos in the Old World more, to play it more, to kind of like learn it, to kind of get that strategy down. But things like Inish is that real good medium in there where it's light enough and not like as asymmetric as a lot of those other ones. Everyone's kind of has the same playing field. But I also like all the fuck you cards in Terraforming Mars. I'm like, those are in. Yeah, let's go ahead and keep all those. You just happen to get that one. Congratulations on you get to really fuck someone over. But I like the like indirect blocking of just getting your move right ahead of someone else because you needed to be there and to be able to fuck them over. Like, I'm going to go ahead and take that last iron spot, and that's mine now. Or getting the coal out when you needed to get the coal out, or get the wood when you needed the wood, and all kinds. It's hard to pin down my favorite, or what makes one bad versus
if it's just too much.
I mean, Munchkin is always the one everyone just really shits over.
What did you when we were talking about unfair? You weren't saying anything. Do you feel that was too much, or
no?
Okay.
Yeah, I just didn't, because you were already saying everything that I was going to say, and I didn't feel like repeating about how good unfair is.
I was really wanting you to just, every time you didn't say, you just like, I agree.
Yeah. I agree.
What else are the listeners just didn't think you had any opinion?
Yeah. It's unfair is good.
I mean, at one point we just need to replace Jeff with a soundboard that's an I agree button. I agree.
You
said it all.
You said
I agree. You
fuck
said
me,
it
right?
all. Fuck me, right? Yeah. Got it. We've soundboarded Jeff.
Emails at
Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of good games that have it, and most.
I think most games have it.
Yeah. It's hard to find any that don't.
Yeah.
As we stumbled through earlier.
Yeah. So it sounded like yours was definitely, you're not nearly as high on it as I am, but you still have.
No, I don't lust for the crushing of my enemies as you are.
Right. Yeah.
In general, I like the more cooperative style of things, or like the cooperative thematic style of things for the player interaction, but of the not so friendly player interaction, they're all still pretty okay.
Yeah. So for me, similar to Zach, I play games to interact with people. Like, there's a reason that I play very few board game apps, and really the ones that have been like the dicey games that you basically
the games that are already the games that are already sort of multiplayer solitaire.
Yeah, that have solo versions that work just fine as an app, that are quick and easy. I'm not beating down the door to play many games online. I'll occasionally jump in. I'm in Indonesia and a food chain game online right now, with a bunch of people from the Slack channel. They're super slow going, but some of that's my fault. And Paul was in Europe. But anyway, I play games for the social aspect of it. And so I like player interaction. I really do. I might not like some of the more direct, take that, fuck you type interaction all the time. There are games that I think do it very well, that handle it well, that balance it well to where it doesn't feel personal. Because that's one of the things, especially as somebody who regularly, as listeners of the show, have surely picked up on. As somebody who's regularly the heel of the group, I'm the one regularly getting picked on and mocked and fucked with.
Unless it's a negotiation game.
In which case, all of that's still true.
No, it's me then.
Well, a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty personal when you start the game with Jeff goes, by the way, don't listen to anything this fucker says.
True. But you've earned that reputation.
I know, but it's still personal. I'm just saying.
He sits on a throne of lies.
Yeah. Don't believe a goddamn thing he says.
Yeah. And so as somebody who fits that role in most every friend group I've ever had, I escape a friend group and I get new friends, and it's like 6 months of bliss. And then they realize, wait, you're really fun to make fun of. And then it starts all over again. So I do prefer the stuff that feels less personal. That that doesn't have room to feel personal. Like, I rarely ever feel like somebody takes all of the wood in Agricola just to fuck me. Like, you're clearly wanting all of that wood that I want. Like, you just beat me to the resource. And that's frustrating, but it doesn't feel personal.
Well, and I think a lot of that would be, especially with Euros, is that like a lot of them tend to be tight enough that if I do something to just fuck you, it's fucking me in the process if it doesn't work for me at all.
Right. So I definitely prefer games like that where, you know, and that's one thing Unfair did well. We talked about with the cards where they can either be a boon or a bane. And so it's like, if somebody's playing it as a bane, it doesn't feel personal because they're giving up the boon. Or some of the other asteroid cards and things in Terraforming Mars where they're investing enough into it, they're getting enough out of it that it's like, if you're really putting all that effort into fucking me, then again, you're probably hurting yourself. You know, you probably did that because it was the best move for you and it just happens to hurt me. And I can shrug that off a little bit better. But I still do like player interaction. I like being able to affect other things. I love even like a game like Race for the Galaxy, another one that is, we didn't really talk much about, but that is commonly listed as a multiplayer solitaire. I love trying to get in the head of the people I'm playing with to figure out like, what card are they going to try and play? Are they going to try to explore or settle or develop? Because I can tail on that action. So if I can play the right things, I can do 4 things I want to do if I nailed what their 2 are. You know, the worst thing you can ever have in Race for the Galaxy is all 3 people play the same action. It's like, oh, great.
Yeah.
I misread. And now we're all wasting turns.
Yeah. I view that sort of similar to, oh God, what is it? The Vidal games where it's, you're just gaining extra. Like it's you're trying to plan, like figure out people just to gain extra versus trying to stop them or anything like that.
I mean, a lot of the VTOL ones, it's not as, I don't think it's as much reading the other players.
No, I know, but I just mean in that regard of like, you just gain something extra from the player versus them stopping you or anything like that.
Not all interaction has to be negative.
Fuck you for saying that.
Yes, it does.
It's rare that a game is actually, I think, okay without player interaction. Welcome 2 is one of the few that I can think of lately that I still really enjoy playing with groups of people, aside from co-ops, which are different. But it's something about the way the game plays and the way I interact with the people outside of the game while we're playing it still makes it a bunch of fun. And still fun to play, although there isn't really any it is probably, of the games that I regularly play, the closest thing to multiplayer solitaire. And I don't know if I would play an app for that. Like there is something about, and maybe it's just the way the groups I've played with talk trash around it.
Yeah,
I don't know. There's something about.
Well, I think one is just we have a good group to just be around. So whether you're all playing, like Shut the Box, we're all playing, but it's just seeing who's better at it.
Who gets luckier at rolling.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. I mean, obviously the only skill in that is to know not to fuck yourself over with which tiles you take.
Yeah.
But oh shit. What were you talking about?
When it's okay for not player interaction.
Oh, that's it. For me at least, if it's short enough, then it's not a problem. Like roll for even though you get to take away the die from people like that, it's more often than not, it doesn't matter. But it's short enough that it's like I still enjoy it, and then I just get to I do my thing and then talk with my friends and stuff like that.
Yeah, which because like Welcome 2, it's not like I've only enjoyed it here in our friend. No. I've enjoyed Welcome 2 everywhere I've played it. Something about that game really stands out for lack of player interaction, indirect or direct, regardless. Like there's just really not much player interaction in the game itself, but it's still a lot of fun to play. It encourages the right kind of banter around the table, and it's, I guess, light enough, weird, light and short enough that it, I don't know, it still works. Jeff, do you have anything you want to comment on lack of player interaction still being good?
Yeah, I mean, you don't really need player interaction. Most do in even the lightest of feathery touches, but it's not end-all be-all for my enjoyment of a game.
Right. I would say the only ones that I don't enjoy are the ones where it's just if someone is literally like if it's a skill and someone is just better at it than another person. So that was Dimension or even like Set and stuff like that. If you're just better at pattern recognition than somebody else, or like with Dimension, it's literally just I built this. Did I do better than you? I did, but when I was playing with people, I was just always doing better than them, and then it's just like. Well, when Paul and I were playing, it was just, well, we got it all right. Okay. well, we got it all right. We got as much as we could, but it was all the same amount. It was just at that point, like, because the game didn't have any interaction. If you're better at that than somebody else, if they want to play to try and get better, sure. But I don't know, it doesn't feel like a competition in that regard, if that makes that. And that sounds really shitty to say, but
you're just crushing everyone so hard that's why even play? It's barely a game.
Yeah. It's just an exercise in futility.
Yes.
Yeah. Right on.
Yeah.
I feel like that kind of is a good spot to stop this discussion.
Yeah.
It's rambled enough. Hopefully there's been something useful that people have.
Yeah. Instead of like digging deep into, I think what we did is we did that sort of thing where someone like digs a hole and then you
dig up.
Then you dig that hole down and then you just sort of dig it again and dig it down, but it just takes a while. I think that's why
you're just digging deeper.
I'm not
even. Never mind.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Digging and then covering it back up.
Anyway,
then we filled the hole.
We
dug the hole back.
Yeah.
Then we filled the hole again.
Which we're doing right now. So let's stop that and let's move on to some listener feedback.
Okay.
There were no emails about this episode, but there were several different things to talk about over on our BGG thread.
Yes.
For competitive player interaction.
All right. First one is from Bryant. My preference is denial, similar to what is found in your typical worker placement game, where spots for certain actions are limited. This usually means turn order is often very crucial, and there is a mechanism that changes the order. Examples are Russian Railroads, Stone Age, and Dungeon Pets. Have any of us played any of those three?
I have not.
I've not.
Nor have
I really want to play Dungeon Pets.
Yeah, I've heard good things about it. My least favorite is Take That, such as Munchkin. You tend to get locked into a cycle of one player nearing victory only to be ganged up by the other players. This can happen repeatedly until everyone's cards are depleted and someone finally wins. Designers need to always keep in mind that various player counts and how the game will scale, such as providing multiple boards for different player counts and reducing the action spaces to keep the competition tight for fewer players.
Yeah.
I feel Feast or Odin did not do a good job for that.
No.
Because you really, like, with 3 players, you're like...
I can do everything.
I can do everything I want.
The fact that Feast for Odin is tightest at 1 is a bad thing.
Maybe the expansion will help.
Yeah, that's the hope. But...
Or just add more.
Oh, God.
But I think we chatted pretty much about all the same things. Like,
yes.
Munchkin sucks.
I super agree with Bryant on both those.
Eric says, my thoughts on this are that it depends directly on the theme, as I like all of those types that you've listed. He quoted my article or my thing that I wrote. Depending on the situation. If the game is about fighting, give me all that direct interaction. The meaner, the better. But if it's about city building, please don't let opponents be able to destroy my buildings. That's just too frustrating. A great example of this is Unfair, which I found unfun because I wanted to build a theme park, not just take turns destroying my opponent's theme park and having them destroy mine.
Well, you clearly read the name of the game incorrectly. It's not Build a Theme Park the game. It's Unfair.
Well, and one of the things I do like about Unfair is like rarely is it like you demolish it. It's like
there is
close down.
Couple cards where it's
there's
like,
a couple
close everything.
Well, yeah, I think I've definitely noticed
but they fit thematically. It's like, OSHA violation shit gets closed.
Yeah, no, it's just like there's one thing gets closed, but because you're gonna like someone had one, like it was just like
one stacked.
Yeah, roller coasters get closed, and all they had was roller coasters. You're like, well, obviously I'm gonna choose that person because they fucked up by just building one thing.
Yeah.
But I can understand it is very interactive, and if you don't, there are like I know you can.
The different decks have different interactivity levels and stuff.
Part of that, and then also like some of the game changers. There's like one or two that's like only do nice things.
Yeah,
you can never, But why, the whole game is about that, and so it's just.
It would be interesting to have.
I feel like that'd be a sort of a waste of money if that was the only one you played with each time. But that would be me.
Yeah.
So
it would be interesting to have an Unfair that it was just like make the best theme park without the interactivity.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the game.
That's not the game, no. Raphael says, I prefer global interaction infused with solo gameplay, a la Terraforming Mars. You're working on your own engine, but the community map dictates the gameplay. The hostile cards, red bordered, seem too directed at a specific player. They also don't have any way of being prevented, which seems to be mean-spirited versus a core component of the game. However, like others have said, if the theme creates hostility, then I'm all for the more aggressive and harmful interaction.
Not all the red cards are hostile.
No, the red border. So like the red border.
They're just events.
No.
He's not talking about that border. He's talking,
the ones like when you play an asteroid, the red bordered plants that make everything die.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Also, the red cards.
I do think from a thematic perspective, it's interesting how much negative interaction there is in terraforming Mars. Like corporations are really just scorching each other's fields while they're trying to terraform Mars.
Well, it's trying to be about who, what corporation did
did the most work.
Did the most work, yeah. And then they're like,
I think it's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, companies have definitely fucking thwarted each other all the time.
But
so
less modern than it's not like there were back when there were shooting wars between the railroads. Like we've kind of left that in the past.
Yeah,
I guess maybe we cycle back around to it when we go to Mars.
Yeah,
time is a flat circle.
Exactly. While Azul has a light theme that doesn't bring aggressive play to mind, it can be a mean game. I like the player interaction because it slowly becomes more tense. In addition, because all players have access to being mean, whereas in Terraforming Mars, it's all based on the cards. The mean actions forcing players to break tiles. I am okay with these mean decisions.
Though Azul's an interesting one because I feel like sometimes you get boxed into turn order where like you see it coming like 3 turns away. Like, well, there's not much I can do. I'm going to take 6 tiles here in a little bit. That's going to hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah. I definitely know some people are more okay with mean decisions if it's like, I have to do this to you.
Yeah.
Versus I choose. But for me, it's always just like, oh, you're thinking of me. If you're always like, fuck you. I'm like, oh, you think I'm a threat. Chad says, nothing will beat diplomacy or negotiation games for me. Whether it's pure negotiation games like Cosmic Encounter or a Game of Thrones, the board game, 2nd edition, or indirectly through hidden trader mechanics like Battlestar Galactica, the board game. I love being put into a position of having to trust other players and also to have backup plans for when their trust inevitably falls through.
Adrian never has that backup plan.
No.
His plan is to back himself into the knife.
Yeah, I thought that's what you meant by back up.
No, his plan is like, if I have my back against the wall, no one can stab me in the back. And then there's just a panel in the back. Stab me. And then you're like, now fuck, I'm nowhere.
Well, my back's against the wall. Here, Zach. I trust you, though. You can stand behind me.
Yeah.
Don't stab me. Our backs are to the wall. Ow.
Yeah. Oddly enough, however, I dislike games where you blatantly lie to another, like Coup. I like bluffing, but I hate looking someone in the eye and lying to them. It goes a step too far, in my opinion.
I've definitely had people that have, like, I've tried to play Coup with the same way. They're like, I don't lie.
Yeah.
I'm not a liar.
Just tell the truth the whole time. You'll be fine.
Megan won a game doing
that. No, you can. Yeah, you can.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Then it becomes the luck of the cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I definitely know some people just don't like lying, in which case that's not a game for you. That's just not a game style for you.
Nor is poker.
No, yeah. Direct conflict games like Quantum I enjoy, but can only stomach a few times a year. Easy to feel picked on and held back on purpose, which is kind of the whole point.
I don't think I've ever played Quantum or seen Quantum.
It's I haven't played it either, but I know it's like dice-based sort of thing, and it's like you're upgrading dice that you can be like, and fuck you, I'm going to attack you, and shit like that.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I know some people don't like that game because the attacker wins on ties or something like that.
Yeah, there's something fucky.
Yeah.
I haven't played it either. Joel
says, for me, the level of player interaction must mesh well with the mechanism/theme of the game. Rising Sun's high level of conflict player interaction works very well with the area control/diplomacy mechanics of the game.
Light on the diplomacy.
I don't think I would want to play a version of Rising Sun that was more passive or had a multiplayer solitaire style of gameplay.
It would be a very different game.
It would not be Rising Sun at all. I also think any measure of a good game, for at least a casual gaming audience, has to have some level of denial or active interaction. Otherwise, what is the point of playing the game with others? Invite friends over to play a game where the only interaction is found in social conversation versus what's on the board? A game that causes a situation like that is a hard pass for me. Would rather just meet at a brewery and shoot the shit over some beers at that point, which is understandable.
Shut the box.
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's what I was trying to touch on there towards the end of the discussion was like with the games that don't have a lot, like where are they still good? Why, like where do they fit? Because it is kind of weird. I don't know.
Gotcha.
I mean, they're still good games. It just depends if you like that kind of light interaction.
I mean, I think it's telling that there's very few that we can come up with that fit that, though.
Because there's so few that just don't have any.
True.
Yeah. All right. Last one is from Andrew. I'm here to defend multiplayer solitaire, which in some circles has become an insult for a game.
I mean, I don't think it's some circles. I think most people who say multiplayer solitaire are deriding the game they're saying it about.
Terraforming Mars, that is not the first mention. That's got to be at least like
dozens.
Seventh.
Dozens, literally dozens of mentions.
Is basically multiplayer solitaire other than competing for awards and milestones.
Which is, it's not.
It's not.
Anybody who says Terraforming Mars is multiplayer solitaire needs to be punched.
Yeah.
Being raw.
Directly interacted with?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I think it's the same. There's a decent amount of games where you play them, and because you're not immediately interacting with, or you're not immediately actively interacting with somebody, it just feels like that, but you don't realize until later.
It's like, where are my soldiers on the board that shoot the other Martians?
Like, once you play it enough, then you can be like, oh, okay, I see the interaction. Like, when I first was playing Race for the Galaxy, I was like, whatever anybody else says doesn't matter to me. It's only what I'm doing. But then eventually playing enough, you're like, oh, no, you're actually trying to figure out what other people are doing. So there is some interaction there. It's definitely on the lower end in that regard.
Yeah.
But
at some point,
I think we should have finished reading his comment before.
I know. I'm just saying that.
I mean, to be fair, I was one of the first to jump in.
Yeah.
And be like, no. I also realized after, like, because I'm reading along,
yes,
I realized I just said Andrew needed to be punched in the face.
Yeah, you did.
Sorry, Andrew. I take it back.
Sure, there's some interaction in the form of take that cards, but if you can't prevent it, then there's no sense of worrying about it or planning for it. I want to care what other people do on their turn, but it's fine by me if they can't pour sand in my engine. I like player interaction, but multiplayer solitaire shouldn't automatically be assumed as a negative.
Well, and so this is one of the things that, like, for me, I wanted to kind of have this episode touch on, and we didn't get to it as much as I wanted to, but I don't think multiplayer solitaire is hardly a thing. Like, so many people throw it out there when it's just like, oh, this doesn't have the kind of interaction I like, especially when the interaction is indirect. So many people just don't appreciate indirect interaction. I do agree with what he's saying. Like, I always want to care what other people do. Like, you can't, I don't want to have to, like, I don't want to play a game where I can just check out for 20 minutes, come back, do something, check out for 20 minutes, come back, do something.
Yeah.
That's not fun. But depending on the game, I think, I don't want to pour sand in my engine either.
No, it's understandable.
We chit-chatted a bit about Feast for Odin, but I think that's kind of one of the harder multiplayer solitaire ones out there.
Yeah, the blocking's just not tight enough to really make you feel that interaction. Like, it's there, obviously, because you are denying certain spaces,
but there's
just so many other options.
Well, and I just think a lot of it is a lot of these games, when you're learning them, you're so focused on what you're doing, and especially with Terraforming Mars, you are like reading you're trying to figure out these cards, you're trying to figure out the strategies and what you need to do, that you don't have the time to try and focus on what other people are doing. And so by the time you're done, you're like, well, I was doing my own thing, and then I just was just trying, then at the end of it, you just feel that it was multiplayer it was multiplayer solitaire because you were just so focused on learning the game and just getting an initial grasp of it. You weren't getting what the interactions in it were. But after a couple of games, you're like, okay, I know how to play the game. Then you could be like, oh, I don't want Adrian to have this.
Yeah.
Versus when you're first playing, you don't know what Adrian, what you do or don't want. So you're not going to try, you're focused on too many things to worry about that. And so there are definitely some games that can give that an initial play can make you feel like that because you are focused too much on learning the game and not interacting with the people as much.
Yeah. And that's something I saw, like, in some of the articles I was reading and like little blurbs on BGG that somebody mentioned, especially when it comes to indirect interaction, learning how to do the right things at the right times that will both benefit you and block other people is something that comes with more plays. And I think that is a problem with Euros. Euros, I feel like, really reward deep dive multiple plays to see all the depth, all the strategy, all the options. Whereas sometimes a lot of Ameritrash, they wear themselves on the sleeve. their interaction on the sleeve. That is.
Well, and then when you come from that to something more indirect, when you go from direct to indirect, it feels like a step down. So in terms of interaction,
I mean, it can.
When you're first going from active to from direct to indirect, a lot of people feel like you lose that because you lose being able to directly interact with somebody. And so until you can come to terms with that, that's what
how blocking really works.
Exactly. Yeah.
How best to really twist the knife.
Mm-hmm.
You know how to stab. Now the twist.
Yeah. That's what causes the damage.
Yeah.
Yes. We didn't really talk about Seven Wonders at all. There's not much. Never got brought up as.
I mean, there is a little bit of denial in the drafting. What I like, whether I take something to burn that I just don't want somebody else to have.
Yeah, I would say that's part of the taking resources sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Same with Patchwork.
Yeah. Or Terraforming Mars with the drafting.
Yeah.
So it's hard to find something that doesn't have some sort of interaction in there.
Exactly.
But I know for me, when you're speaking about it, is that Terraforming Mars has interaction, but it's definitely on the lower end as opposed to a lot of other games. So.
Which I don't know. I guess maybe because of the types of games I play.
Yeah.
I feel like with the asteroids and all of those, like there's a lot of very direct player interaction in that game. I also didn't agree with what he said about like, oh, since you can't plan for them, you might as well not worry. Like you can plan. Like don't sit around with 10 plants. You've got 8. Put a greenery out. Otherwise, somebody's going to hit you with an asteroid.
Hit you with a small moon.
Mm-hmm.
Teemo's down.
Yeah. I think I would assume he means like for sabotage, like don't always be like, well, I'm always going to have 7 extra money just in case somebody hits me with that.
Yeah. So. Yeah. In that regard. True. Fair enough. But that is all of the listener feedback for this episode. So thanks everybody who chimed in. Hopefully this rambly, crazy discussion was...
This is either going to be really long or really short. I don't know what you're doing.
Oh, it's going to be really long.
Okay.
It's going to be a long episode because I'm not going to try and weed through that shit. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. So hopefully you all have enjoyed it. Hopefully it's...
You got any... You
got something out of it?
Yeah, something.
You got to fill your bus ride for 2 more hours.
True. True. If you have any thoughts on player interaction or any of the discussions we had, any of the topics in it we talked about, feel free to jump over to that BGG thread, Board Game Geek Guild number 2731. There's a thread up on the player interaction discussion where you can go join the conversation over there. Talk to the people who already left answers, leave your own answers, and we'll address them in the future. We'll come back to them. You can always send us emails.
Emails at milehighgameguys.com.
You can find us on Twitter. I tweet under at MHGameGuys.
I am Zach_MHGG.
And I'm Jeff_MHGG.
And Facebook and Instagram /MileHighGameGuys are other ways to get a hold of us. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Next week, we will have our Wednesday banter episode. And then Friday, we will be reviewing, comparing and contrasting Brass Lancashire and Brass Birmingham. So look forward to that episode. That ought to be a good one. I'm very excited because I fucking love Brass. Holy shit. It's going to be a good episode. So, yeah, that sums it all up. Wraps it all up nice. Thanks, everybody, for listening. As always, I have been your host, Adrian.
I am still Zach.
And I'm Interactable Jeff.
Bye.
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 Punchboard Media,
where we all
bring something
to the table.
Pull up a chair
at punchboardmedia.com.